Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome, everyone, to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. Why did you renounce the worldly life? It's an interesting question, and it's a question that tends to be rooted in this concept that somehow that world has so much, and you've forsaken it, you've renounced it, you've sacrificed all of the good things in life for the spiritual path. That tends to be sort of the underlying feeling to these questions. For me, it was not a rational decision. It was not that I woke up one day and said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to renounce all of these things and go on a spiritual quest. For me, it was actually something that just happened. I had come to India traveling, had no intention of staying, no expectation of staying. I wasn't looking for a guru. I wasn't even consciously on a spiritual path, that I was looking for something. But standing on the banks of Ganga, something so deep and so powerful happened that I knew I needed to stay. An analogy that I use to describe it frequently is, if you imagine that you have spent your whole life wearing size 6 shoes. Everybody your whole life has always told you your feet are size 6. Here are very, very pretty size 6 shoes. And so you wear the size 6 shoes. And in the beginning you say, but my feet hurt. And they say, yeah, don't worry, that's what shoes feel like. Slowly, you just get used to it. I mean, it's not like you're living with any sort of awareness of pain or suffering. You're just, this is what shoes feel like. And then one day, someone slips your foot into a size 8 shoe. And it turns out that you actually are a size 8. And they slip your foot into a size 8 shoe and you say, so that's what shoes feel like. And then they say to you, but don't you ever want to go back? Like, don't you miss wearing the size 6 shoe? I mean, are you sure that you always want to wear size 8 shoes? And you think, really? Like, why in the world would you go back to something that didn't fit? It's not a perfect analogy because my life was really good. It wasn't like a pair of shoes that didn't fit. It just wasn't who I was exactly. It wasn't the deepest, it wasn't the highest, it wasn't the fullest of who I was. And so it was wonderful in so many ways. But when I came here and I had the experience that I had on the banks of Ganga, and then every experience since then, it's been getting something not sacrificing something? And these sorts of questions always have the undertone of sacrifice, like you've really given up something. And for me, that wasn't the experience at all. For me, the experience was gaining something. The only things I had to give up were logistic habits, triple soy lattes in the middle of the afternoon. Probably now in the market you could find one, but 20 years ago you couldn't. And little things like that, just the type of habitual life that we've grown accustomed to. Bagels and frozen yogurt and lattes and, these sorts of things. Habits in life. A freeway where everyone's going the same direction on one side of the road, and on the other side everybody's also going the same direction in the other direction. But what India offered me was so much more valuable, so much more full, so much more complete than all of the soy lattes or all of the smooth freeway driving or bagels or frozen yogurt or whatever. And so it wasn't a matter of renouncing something, really. I know the term we use, of course, is renunciation. But really, for me, what it has been is just a choice. You go to a restaurant and there's 50 items on the menu. You can't eat all 50 items. You have to make a choice, this or that. It can't be both. When you're getting dressed every day, you can't wear 2 pairs of pants. You can't wear 2 saris. You make a choice, this one or that one. When you have a job, you make a choice. Everything's a package deal. And the quote-unquote worldly life is a package deal, and the quote-unquote renunciant life is a package deal. It's not that one is all good, one is all bad, one is all luxury, one is all hardship, one is right, one is wrong. It's just different packages. And what I have found is that a life that allows me to be dedicated, because we only have 24 hours a day, regardless of which package for your life you're going to choose. We've only got 24 hours in a day. And you've only got a certain amount of energy. Presumably you have to eat meals. You have to sleep at least 6, 7, ideally 8 hours a night. You've got to bathe. So we're left with only a certain number of hours left in our day that are really in our hands. And the question is, what way of spending those hours is most in line with what's most important to me? And for me, the choice to be in a place that enabled me to dedicate myself to spirituality was worth all of the lattes, all of the cars, all of the, more comfortable beds that I had been accustomed to. And you can have the most comfortable bed in the world, but if you need to take a pill to go to sleep at night because you're so anxious, it doesn't really help much. And what I have found here is a package deal. It's not perfect. But as a package, it's much more fulfilling to me and meaningful to me than the package that the life that I had before coming, or the life that I would have if I went back, would have. And, one of the tragedies, in a way, of the New Age spiritual teaching is this concept that life is a buffet, and that you really get to kind of just pick and choose whatever you want. And it's not like that. You can't simultaneously live in Paris and live in LA. You can't simultaneously have children and have the freedom of not having children. We have to make choices. And what's important for each of us is to just figure out, not how can I figure out how to make life a buffet, because you can't. Not, well, this package would be great if only. Because that's just a recipe for misery. I'll tell you a funny story. So we were in Switzerland a couple of years ago running a retreat. And we arrived at the Zurich airport and we drove straight to the place where the retreat was. And so along the way, it was a few-hour drive, along the way we stopped and there was this wonderful fresh marketplace where you could get fresh green salads and fruit, and they made juice, and they had a coffee bar. And as you may have gathered already, I enjoy coffee. But I don't enjoy powdered coffee. So when I'm out of India in a place where there's the opportunity to have nice filtered coffee, I'll usually take up the opportunity, particularly when I've just gotten off an overnight flight. So I go up to the coffee bar and I'm with the woman who's organizing the retreat, a Swiss woman. And I said, could you order, because I don't speak German, and we were in the German part of Switzerland. I said, can you order for me a latte, but instead of with regular milk, I want it with soy milk. And they had soy milk, because I could see it sitting on the counter. And she said, you tell them. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I don't speak German. She said, that's okay, they speak enough English. You tell them. And so I did, and they gave me a little funny look, but they gave me my coffee. And I asked her in the car, I said, why, did you need me to tell them? You did everything else. She said that in Switzerland, you take exactly how things are. You do not ask for anything to be changed. That she had a group of friends from California come to visit, and she had taken them out to eat, and they had done what those of us from California are used to doing, which is we say, well, I'd like this, but actually instead of that bread, can you put it on this bread? And instead of that spread, can you use this spread? And instead of this side, can you give me that side? And we kind of, and she said her friends did that in the restaurant, and the waiter said to them, I have a wonderful idea. Why don't you go home and cook yourself dinner exactly how you'd like to eat it? Now, in California, you can go to a restaurant and the waiters and waitresses can handle that kind of stuff without even a pen. Like, they're so used to it. I always say, don't you have to write this down? And they say, no, we're used to it. And it's always right, and they've made all the substitutions you want. But we've been sort of spoiled because the world isn't like that. And even dining in most places isn't like that. But we've really been spoiled to kind of think that, I can walk into the restaurant and say, well, I want this dish, but instead of this side, I want that side. Instead of that bread, this bread. Do it that way. And they'll do it. And life isn't like that. Life offers us opportunities and options and packages. But it's not a buffet. And so when, for me, I chose the life of renunciation, I was aware of that. It wasn't that prior to coming here I had thought that, marriage and children were bad and that I had somehow, decided to walk this path. Or that I thought that orange was the color that suited me better than any other color, and I was just, dying to be able to wear orange all day long. It was that they were pieces that came with the package. And the package was one that was so much richer and more full than the life that I was living. And fortunately, I was able to recognize that it wasn't a matter of, well, maybe I could just have that life, but put some of this and, sprinkle a little of that on top. To recognize that this as a package was really what I wanted. And again, as I said, it's not perfect, but none of the package options are. The only thing that makes life perfect, whether you choose, as the questioner asked, the worldly life or the spiritual life, the renounced life, the only thing that makes it perfect is how you deal with it, how we respond. That's what's in our hands. And that's what really brings, because there's a lot of people I know who are married with children and who are miserable. And there's a lot of renunciants I know who are miserable. And so it's not like you could sort of decide, well, which is the right way. There's a lot of people I know who are married with children who are very happy. A lot of renunciants I know who are very happy. For me, what I discovered was that this path was much simpler and much purer in what it offered me in terms of the ability to live the truth that I had experienced and the truth that I wanted to live without having so many encumbrances. It's not that you can't live a spiritual life married with kids. Of course you can. The scriptures are full of stories of people who are married and families and sages. But for me, knowing myself, what I realized was that was going to be a lot to juggle. It was going to be a lot to juggle all of that and all of this. And all of this was so much more beautiful and so much more full and so much more fulfilling than all of that ever had been. I mean, I was 25. I grew up in LA. I had seen this. And when I came and I had this experience, it opened up a world for me that was just so much richer than anything I had known beforehand. So it was not a matter of renouncing. It was not a matter of having to push that away. It was a matter of simply opening myself more and more and more to this that filled me up so much that there was no more room or question for that. It's like going back to the menu example. Everything on the menu may look really good before you've ordered and eaten. But once you've made a choice and you've ordered and you've eaten and you're full, it doesn't matter how good something looked before. You're no longer hungry. And so for me, what I have found here is so filling on every level that there's no hunger or thirst or yearning for any of that. It's not that I had to consciously say, to that life. No, vows against bagels or frozen yogurt or lattes or things like that. It was just this world that I want to live in doesn't include those. Okay, well, it's so filling otherwise, I don't even notice the absence. And that for me has been the path. And so it's been much more a path of embracing than a path of renouncing.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. Many people coming from abroad think that Hinduism is a polytheistic religion. You come here and you've got an image of this God and that God and this God, and we have this prayer to that God, this prayer to that God, this prayer to this God. Walk into any temple, a Sanatana Dharma temple, and you're going to see so many, dozens sometimes, of different statues, different images. And the priest will go by chanting the mantras or doing the prayers or doing the arti to all of the different divine manifestations. That gets misinterpreted. Let me repeat that. Misinterpreted as being polytheism. Hinduism is not a polytheistic religion. We do not believe in many gods. What we believe in is one God who is infinite and everywhere. And when God is infinite and everywhere, then there's an infinite number of possible manifestations or reflections. One way to think about it, none of the metaphors is perfect, because when it's God that you're speaking about, obviously the words, which are finite, are not able to describe that which is infinite. The words which are two-dimensional are not able to describe that which defies dimension. But we sort of run circles around the truth, getting a little bit closer and closer and closer to it. So one way of thinking about this is you have the sun. And the reason it's not a perfect analogy is the sun, of course, is not infinite. But nonetheless, the sun is very big and very powerful. And as many different containers as I put on the ground are as many different types of reflections as I'm going to get. A container that is flat, or almost flat, a bowl type of container that's blue and ceramic, is going to give me a very different type of reflection of the sun than a container that is glass and vertical and translucent. Same sun. Different reflections only because the containers are different. So God is one. There really is nothing but God. It's not just that we believe God is one, but we believe there is nothing but God, which is why, of course, the analogy is not perfect. But that one nothing but God is being manifest, seen, perceived in an infinite number of different containers. There's another line also from the Upanishads that says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam, yat kincha jagatyam jagat. And what it means is everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. There is nothing and no one that is not pervaded by the divine. And these are not just teachings that we read and we say, oh wow, and then we go and, have dinner and fight with our family and watch TV and go to sleep. These are teachings for how we should live. You sit with your Upanishads in front of you and you chant, or you listen to a katha, or you go to a lecture. Well, the whole point of that is it should change how I see things. If we are talking about there being nothing but God, that doesn't say anywhere, everything is God except my boss. Everything is God except my mother-in-law. Like there's no scripture that says it like that. If everything is God, then everything is God. And that also includes me. And that may be stating the obvious, but sadly, most of us actually tend to forget ourselves most in the equation. We meditate on compassion. We meditate on loving kindness. We look for God around us. We try to practice compassion. We try to practice love. And then what do? Oh my God, you are so stupid. Look, you're trying to practice love. How dare you yell at that person? You're horrible. You're worthless. You can't even do this spiritual thing right. We berate ourselves. We're negative to ourselves in the name of compassion and loving kindness. Well, who you are is also not left out of the equation. So it's not everything is God but me because I'm worthless. And the teaching is, how can I live and really, really see that? It's obviously not easy, but we have examples. I mean, if you study the life of saints like Paramahansa Ramakrishna, for example, there's beautiful, beautiful stories from his life of him literally bowing down on the ground in pranam to prostitutes. And people would say to him, what are you doing? You're a holy man. These are wicked women. How could you be prostrating to them? And as tears pour down his face, he would reply, but they are the mother. They are the goddess. That's really seeing the divine. And what it requires us to do is to focus on essence rather than form. So it's like going back to my sun example for a moment, rather than focusing on the container. And if I point over here and the sun is reflecting and I say, what is this? Well, you could say, that's a blue ceramic bowl. Or you could say, that's a reflection of the sun. And in our lives, what we tend to do is we tend to say, that's a blue ceramic bowl. Who are you? I'm female, I'm white, I'm 45, I'm American, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a PhD. These are my parents, this was my life, this is how much I weigh, this is how tall I am. This is what I'm allergic to. This is what I like and don't like. It's like saying, what is this? It's a blue ceramic bowl. No, it's a reflection of the sun. The bowl is just the vessel. And so what the teaching is, who are you? You're the divine. Yeah, this is a vessel. You can't see the sun reflection in the air. You need a vessel. The sun is such that until and unless I have a vessel, I cannot see the reflection on earth. And here, with our eyes, we only are able to see God in form, with these two eyes. This is why when we talk about our third eye, so many people ask, why do we put this tilak here? Like, what does that mean? Well, one of the aspects of it is it reminds us, oh God, when I use these two eyes, what I'm able to see is only form. I can see hair color, skin color, height, weight, clothes, fat, thin, ugly, beautiful, female, male. But that's illusion. And this chakra here is actually the energy center of the power of discrimination. And it's the power to discriminate truth from untruth. And the truth, that capital T eternal truth, is that we're divine. And so when we put the tilak on, or when we do meditations for the third eye, the point is, oh God, let me see from this eye, rather than using these two eyes, which just keep feeding me falsehood after falsehood, separation after separation, form after form after form, instead of essence. Oh God, I want to see content, not form. I want to see essence, not form. I want to see you, not the package. I want to see the truth. And the third eye is the energy center, the Agya Chakra, that's the center for that power of discrimination that says, no, this is not female 45 white American sannyasi. This is divine. And what that means is that there's no separation between you and me. If we're looking only from that which is false, from this physical being, then you and I are separate. You're an object. I may love you, I may hate you, I may want to bring you into my life, I may want to push you out of my life, but either way, you are a separate object. When I'm able to use my third eye, when I'm really living that awareness of there's nothing but God, there's no separation, there's no place I end and you begin. It's all God.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with Inspiration and Transformation. There's a great story of what happens to so many of us when we embark on the spiritual path and we start to get bits of this knowledge of a guru when he had disciples, and he was teaching this exact same teaching to his disciples. Everything is Brahma, there's nothing but Brahma. So 2 of his disciples go into the city one day, and as they're in the city, there's a big shout that there's an elephant coming. And the man who takes care of the elephant, the Mordat who takes care of the elephant, is shouting, get out of the way, elephant's coming, get out of the way. And the disciple thinks, well, my guru says everything's God. And so I'm going to just stay here because this elephant, well, it's just an illusion. It's really Brahma. It's God. And I'm really Brahma. I'm not just this weak guy. So why do I have to get out of the way? So the elephant guy is screaming. Mahavat, that's what they call him, Mahavat, is screaming at him. Get out of the way, get out of the way. And everybody's trying to pull this guy out of the way. He says, no. It's all good. It's all God. No problem. Elephant, of course, comes and picks him up in his trunk and tosses him, hundreds of yards, and he falls and breaks every bone in his body. And finally his fellow disciples catch up to him and find him broken and bleeding in the grass, and he says, I hate our guru. Our guru is horrible. Look, he gave us this false piece of information. That was a horrible elephant. That was not God. I'm never going back to the guru's ashram. So the disciples go back. They tell the guru. They all come out. Finally, they find him with their lanterns in the night. And the guru comes, and the disciples you know how our ego just locks us up in these ridiculous states. So the man is locked up in one of those states. And the guru says, Kya hua? What happened? And the man says, I was just trying to implement your teaching. You are the one who said everything is God. Look what this elephant did to me. And the guru says, but you didn't really implement the teaching. And the man says, what do you mean? I was seeing the elephant as Brahma. And the guru says, but what about the elephant man who told you, get out of the way? What about all the people who tried to grab you and pull you out of the way? I told you everything is Brahma. In your ego, you decided it was just going to be you and the elephant. But you left out the elephant man, you left out all the people, you left out your fellow disciples trying to help you. And this is what happens sadly to us, is we tend to develop these very narrow views. Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. Therefore, you should do the dishes tonight. Therefore, you should take care of me. Well, if I'm God, then so are you. Because God doesn't play favorites. There's no God who says, well, I'm going to be one with you, but not with you. When there's nothing but God, there's nothing but God. And so as we implement these teachings in our lives, it's really, really important to remember that. And again, of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to move through the world remembering that. And that's why when we think about the level on which we live, we have to remember that, yes, that is the ultimate highest truth. And yet, there is also the creation. There is the Creator, and then there is the creation, and that's us. And yes, at our core, we're God. There is nothing but God. But as the creation, in this Leela, this beautiful, incredible, divine drama that God has created, we have hearts that love, and we have minds that think, and we have the ability to have compassion, and we have the ability to reach out a hand. And one of the real tragic pitfalls of a superficial understanding, or rather a superficial implementation in our lives of these truths, is we tend to just use them. Well, everything's God, so why do I have to do my homework? Everything's God, so why give charity? Why pay my taxes? Why do anything? I mean, if it's all perfect, if there's nothing but God, why do I have to set an alarm and get up early in the morning and meditate and pray? I mean, I'm already God. And it really lends itself to very challenging games of the ego. So what I have found personally is it's beautiful to hold that truth, to remember that, to know that that is the highest level of truth. But it's also helpful to remember, well, when I can't live in that every moment of every day, let me at least live in my humanity rather than live in simply a pushed away humanity because, well, everything's God, so I might as well have a beer and watch the ball game. I'm like, what's it matter? And that's a pitfall we don't want to fall into. And so when we think about existence, one way is, you've got like the old TVs and how they had dials that would actually turn from one channel to another channel. And if you think about it, like on the highest channel, the all-encompassing, truest, real channel, it's all God. But then on another channel, we're here in this human form. And this human form has the ability to do things like smile at each other, hug each other, help each other, make laddus and feed each other, use our talent and our ability to serve each other. And we don't want to dismiss that. Because one of the things on a personal level that has always felt very real to me is God is perfect. Otherwise, wouldn't be God. And if God had wanted us to just disconnect entirely from the world and to just know, okay, there's nothing but God. Let these people suffer, let them die, let this happen, let that happen, no problem. It's all God anyway. If that's what God had wanted of us, I do not believe we would have been born with the ability to experience empathy, to experience compassion, to cry at the plight of another. I do not believe that our instinct would be immediately, before our brain processes it, to reach out and help someone who falls down in front of us. I mean, if you're walking down the street and someone in front of you falls, you don't process it in your brain. Well, is it God? Is it not God? You reach down, you help. And if we're trying too much to push away our humanity, then we're throwing away a gift that God has given us, which is our humanity. He's perfect. He gave us a human birth on purpose. We could have been a leaf. We could have been an earthworm. We could have been a tripod. I mean, it's all God. Why human? Why consciousness? Why love? Why intuition? So we use those as gifts from God, as an awareness that the perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful God gave them to us. And yet we hold in our awareness that the highest, deepest, truest truth is it's all perfect. It is all perfect. And yet we still reach down and help up the person who trips in front of us. Because that channel also exists, as long as we're human.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
When I broke my foot,
for leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, and thanks for coming back and joining us for more of inspiration and transformation. We've got two aspects of our minds. Actually, we've got a lot, but for the sake of this brief discussion, we'll call them two. We'll say conscious and unconscious. And yes, of course, there's subconscious, and there's a lot of divisions in there, but let's just divide them and say conscious, unconscious. And in the unconscious comes the subconscious. It's everything that's not fully conscious. Our unconscious mind is all of the stuff that includes everything ranging from the involuntary nervous system, so the fact that you're breathing. Very few of us are conscious of our breath, and yet we're breathing. It's happening on an unconscious level. The fact that we're able to digest our food. The fact that you're able to walk out of here. Very few of us stand up and have to reprogram our conscious minds to remember how to walk. Well, when you've got a toddler, they've got to be very present or they keep falling. The minute you distract them, they plop on the ground. But for us, it's become autopilot. Most of us can drive home from the office to the house to the grocery store without being in the present moment at all. It's so much become a part of our unconscious programming. Habits become unconscious. Ask anybody who smokes and they'll say to you, I don't even, I meant to quit. Next thing I knew, I was, putting my cigarette out in the ashtray. I had no recollection of ever lighting it. People find themselves halfway through, a 6-pack of beer, a chocolate cake, whatever it is, without even realizing. Because we've been on autopilot. We were depressed, we were stressed, we were bored, we were lonely. We were frustrated, we were looking to distract ourselves, whatever it was. And we unconsciously, in this autopilot of our system, did whatever we do habitually. The conscious mind is, of course, the rest of the stuff. The conscious mind is that which I am aware of. That is the goal. The ultimate goal of a spiritual practice is to be always conscious. As it gets higher, as it gets deeper, we become conscious of being conscious. Then in the meditation, you go to different levels of consciousness. Sitting here, I'm just able to be conscious. Okay, I'm here, I'm speaking. I'm present. I'm not on autopilot. But you can take it to another level, and can I bring my consciousness to the place of the one who is watching me speak, to the one who's actually not speaking. But in our lives, first we have to become conscious. And the tragedy is that the vast majority of us spend the vast majority of our lives living in our unconscious mind. This is where we get angry. This is where we shout. This is where we abuse. This is where we do all kinds of things that we later think, oh my God, what have I done? Anger and consciousness don't actually go together. You cannot be consciously angry, which is why you can't do it on demand. Otherwise, whatever it was that made you angry a week ago, you'd be able to bring it back and get yourself angry again. We can remember the situation, but we cannot consciously get our blood pressure up, get our faces red, get ourselves sweating, get ourselves ready to punch a hole through a wall. It happens in the unconscious. And this is why so many, actually probably all of the world's deep spiritual traditions are rooted in a practice of mindfulness. Whether it's meditation, whether it's contemplation, whether it's prayer. Mindful walking, mindful eating. There's entire schools of meditation based only on being mindful. What that does is it brings us into the present moment. It makes us conscious. And that's where it's all at. Because only when we are conscious. Otherwise you think, well, why bother? So many of these programs have you eat a raisin for half an hour. It's not like, enlightenment through eating raisins. It's if I can really be mindful, the mindfulness itself becomes not just an end, the means to an end, but an end in and of itself. In that presence, the Om is there. The mindfulness quiets this. And then we experience that. And this is the key. So as much as you can, all the time, just try to bring yourself back into the conscious mind. When we meditate, yes, but in our lives also. Can you always just be right here? The minute you find that your mind is somewhere else, just bring it back. And what you'll find is that you have a much greater capacity for love and joy and peace. Because as I always say, you cannot be happy yesterday or tomorrow. It is actually impossible. You can only be happy right now. And if you're not here now, I can promise you you're not happy. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.